This week on Westworld, Lee Sizemore steals narratives, more brain nut activity, and is Dolores the bad guy now?
Come on to the After Dark Podcast. The podcast in which Sheriff Anthony does his best to wrangle Konrad through Westworld, one doggone episode at a time. So kick back and grab yourself some Apple Jack, or some Adam's Ale if that's your preferred poison, and get ready for these two wannabe cowboys to ramble the night away. Music was provided by the fantastic Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot. Enjoy the show!
Hello, and welcome to Westworld. No, hello. This is not Westworld. This is the After Dark Podcast, and we're here. Hello, Konrad. How are you?
Hello. I'm well, thank you. I'm all shoguned up with nowhere to go. Well, actually, I've got somewhere to go, and that's the After Dark Podcast.
Yeah, well, yeah, we come here every week. Konrad, someone in the comments said that this was their favourite episode of Westworld. Do you agree?
Of the whole show?
I think so, yes.
Stylistically, probably, because I'm very much into that there samurai shit. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in this episode. It's definitely one of the best ones. I think I struggle to really say that I have one favourite, but this is definitely a great one.
Yeah, part of me thinks like if this is your favorite episode of Westworld, you're not really that big of a fan of the show because this is the one that isn't really Westworld. You know,
you're a big fan of Hiroyuki Sanada, who, by the way, I fucking said that Hollywood and Western television makers only know how to hire two Japanese men, Ken Watanabe and Hiroyuki Sanada, and I said one of them's going to be in this show, and wouldn't you know it? Not 3 episodes later, we get one of them.
I think it was 2 episodes later. I think, and I, you know what's funny about that? I think that rivals some of your biggest predictions of all time in my mind. To be honest with you,
that was a cold shot. That had no idea that he was going to be in this. I just anytime US TV or Hollywood needs to do something with the Japanese, they're like, get Ken and Hiroyuki on the phone now. We need them both. We need someone who speaks English but is passably Japanese, or is Japanese, I should say, not passably Japanese as well. I actually don't know. Well, I feel like Ken Watanabe might only be half Japanese. I'm not sure, but Hiroyuki Sanada is definitely fully Japanese, but just speaks English fairly well.
Well, according to Sylvester, Felix is passable Japanese apparently. Even though he's from Hong Kong. That was painful. All right, we'll get into that, guys. Let's get into the recap. What do you think, Konrad?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. So, first of all, we find out that the brain nuts of the bodies that were in the water are actually clear, as if they've never had data on them before. Maeve and her gang have been taken hostage by their alter egos in the Shogun world. Despite being restrained under threat of death, Sylvester still makes himself look like a cock when he asks if Felix can talk to them, even though he's not even from Japan. We get a really great arc within the Shogun world, which isn't actually that important to the main storyline, except for the characters' own journeys, of course, so let me give you the highlights. There's a Dragon Lady version of the Snake Lady, there's a version of Maeve, there's also a version of Hector too. In fact, Lee Sizemore admits that they just blatantly stole the characters and the storylines from Westworld. Or vice versa, I suppose, if you were to go by real-life cinema history. Anyway, the episode ends with Maeve being able to telepathically tell everyone what to do. She has Wi-Fi abilities now, and she's loving it. Meanwhile, back in Westworld, Dolores is really finding her groove as the monologuing bad guy, telling Teddy all about the time that flies were diseasing the blue tongues, and that how you have to burn some of the herd for the rest of the herd to survive. Bad news, Teddy. She's gonna change you up. Did I miss anything? Right, Konrad, best place to start. Them there brain nuts. Why not talk about them? There's a whole lot of stuff going on with Shoguns. Let's ignore it for the minute and talk about the new tech they've got for brain nuts. Now, it's not unlike the thing we've seen before. The only difference is that they are really... Now, I'm going to talk about this to the day I die, guys. They're really doubling down on trying to convince us that this stuff existed in the first season. 100%.
In what sense? Just that everyone's kind of gaslighting you and being like, "Yeah, this has always been here." Like what do you?
Yeah, it's always been there. The tablets have the connection points.
Yeah,
they're having to plug it in to read what's inside. When the hell was that ever a thing?
Yeah, there is some stuff in this. I think that's one of the reasons why, in response to that question, I'm a bit reluctant to say this is my favorite episode, because stylistically, absolutely yes, they get it. But there's a lot of stuff in this episode, the brain nut stuff in particular, but some stuff with Shogun World, which we'll talk about later, where they kind of lampshade how ridiculous everything is by kind of pointing it out sometimes, but then other times they're very reluctant to talk about it, and it just ends up being this big confusing mess where it's sort of like, are we to believe that this just was never mentioned before? Like, no one ever spoke about this in the entire first season, or is something else going on here?
Yeah, like I think there's a moment that Lee Sizemore mentions that Shogun World is for people who think that Westworld is too tame. And also, Lee Sizemore also knows everything about the characters of the Shogun World.
Never mentioned it.
Never mentioned it before.
Literally, he reveals that he wrote the story for Shogun World. So, why did that never come up in the entire first season?
Like literally in his office, he's when he was working on that Wyatt character.
It's all cowboys,
all Westworld. Where is the? He's got an office per world. This man.
He needs to focus on cowboys when he's in there. That's his creative space. He needs to get into that kind of rootin' tootin' mindset. He can't be polluting it with samurai swords and I don't know, tiger skins or whatever Raj World has.
Yeah, well, we've mentioned it early, Konrad, so we may as well go into the new segment now, and that is all about basically this new segment was born out of my thought about the idea of that this episode is kind of making a statement on American remakes of Japanese cinema. So this new segment is going to be all about American remakes, good or bad.
You want my advice, kid? How to make it in this town? Well, first you gotta move to Japan or Britain. Make it in that town first. Then we'll buy the property.
Okay, Konrad, so I've got a list of American remakes here, which I think are pretty bad. Which ones do you not like?
Old Boy, starring Josh Brolin, directed by Spike Lee. That is one of the worst remakes I think I've ever seen.
Brold Boy,
yeah. It's just Ghost in the Shell. That's a pretty bad one. I mean, I don't love Ghost in the Shell, the anime, but the Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell is one of those things that's just sort of utterly irrelevant. Which ones have you got?
Okay, so my mind goes more towards TV.
Okay,
than film.
sure.
Although there's a lot of film stuff. Like they did a Death Note one recently, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Dragon
we talked
Ball.
about that before. Willem Dafoe as fucking the Shinigami is an interesting choice.
Sense. That maybe makes sense. Makes sense to me. Then you've got what do you call it? The Dragon Ball film, which for some reason my whole life I grew up wanting to see a real life Dragon Ball film, like a live action. And then whenever that came out, I didn't go see it, and I still haven't seen it to this day. Even though all my child and teenage years, I was wishing for it to happen. Once it happened, I didn't go see it.
You missed the majesty of White Goku, which was an interesting choice that they made, given everyone else in that movie was appropriately cast. But there was like, we can't have the lead be.
Do you know this?
Go on.
Do you know the story of Goku? I mean, I agree. They probably if they may as well. But Goku wasn't a human.
He's a Saiyan.
Yeah, he came from another planet. So,
so
the idea that he's a different race than the rest of the people.
Hold on. So you're saying that Saiyans are white guys? Like that's your argument?
I don't know.
There is no way that Goku is a white guy. He has kanji on the back of his shirt or his gi.
Yeah, but he's an alien, Konrad. He
is an alien.
He's not from Earth.
That is true. That's a fair point.
It's like Tom Welling is a white guy. He played Superman, another alien. It would have been that would have been great. Imagine like they just randomly had Superman be an Asian guy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's what people always talk about with this Marvel like What If series. They're like, okay, but let's do like some interesting stuff. Like let's have, I don't know, like a black Superman. Obviously that's not Marvel, but let's do some cool stuff with this. And it always just ends up being being them, I don't know, going for like very, very basic changes, I find.
Yeah, well, that's why I like Emmett has in the comic book talks has talked a little bit about Black Superman and how they have actually done them in the comics really, really well, but they're never in cinema. But okay, my point about the Dragon Ball thing is, I actually do wish it was also a Japanese man. But I will say, my point is that any wiggle room you give them, they'll cast a white man. He's an alien.
Absolutely.
It's like he's an alien, guys. We're not gonna have any backlash about this. Cast him. Scarlett Johansson. It's a robot. They're not gonna have any backlash about this. Let's cast him. So any wiggle room at all, it's like, oh, born 1 mile inside the border of Japan, cast him as a white guy.
I literally during this episode of Westworld, I burst out laughing when the ninjas turned up because I was just like, okay, oh wow, you start things off and you have Hiroyuki Sanada called Musashi, which is obviously a reference to Miyamoto Musashi, who's like a famous kind of warrior poet, codified the samurai code of honor. And then literally a few minutes later, you've got fucking geishas, you've got shamisen, you've got ninjas, you've got peach blossoms. And it's just like you are getting every stereotype you can possibly get into this, which is. How do you feel about this? Because I understand when they kind of lampshade it and say, isn't this ridiculous? Like, it's very much, as you pointed out, like an American remake of a samurai movie, therefore it has all the stereotypical stuff in it.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that, but at the same time, it's like, but you still did it. Like, in your show, you did it. You didn't sort of pull back at all to reveal that actually maybe we should have taken some time to analyze what's going on here. So to me, it was cool, but also kind of dumb.
It's actually, the thing you have to remember as well is it's a park that they're creating for presumably Western people to go and visit. So therefore, they're going to try and make it what the Western people are going to expect to see, which is obviously not a very good idea to do. But it sort of explains it a little bit for me. Before we leave the remake conversation, though, there is one or two that actually are put down as good remakes.
Okay.
Right? At the top two, I've got from Wales Online. I don't know why it's on Wales Online, but we're on Wales Online. Talking about best remakes, US remakes of UK shows. 2 shows, which apparently they are the best remakes. First one is the number 1 place is obviously The Office US.
That was a good one.
See it as the best one. Now, I will say, interestingly about that, I really like The Office US. I originally saw it's one of those ones where I think which one of you saw first is the one you like better. But I saw the UK Office first. But the first season or so where they copy The Office UK isn't actually that good.
No.
But it gets really good when it becomes its own thing.
Well, when they find their place, yeah.
Yeah, so in my mind, it's not even really like a remake. In a way, it is a remake. It had the same birth, but it sort of like grew into its own thing. So the part that was remade of The Office US, if that was all it wasn't actually that good either. And then the second one, which is even more of an L, is obviously House of Cards. We'll not talk about why that was a big L by the end, but
that
didn't
end well for anyone involved. I don't think. Like they got that out and hoped everyone would forget all about it, and rightfully so.
Exactly. Right, okay, so, so the Shogun World. We do get put into Shogun World, and we sort of very quickly come to realize that a lot of the characters in Shogun World are the same as the characters in Westworld, to the point where they're even sort of brought into the storyline of their own gang. Yeah, where they're going in to rob the place, and Sanada, am I right? I think Sanada is Hector in this regard.
Yes. So Hiroyuki Sanada, or Musashi as the character is called, is Hector, and that actually I did really like. The mirroring of storylines. Is very consistent with Lee's character. It's just like, I don't know, just do the same thing again, but make him samurai this time. That feels very consistent with him. Hiroyuki Sanada's a badass, and I loved the scene where they are introduced with our heroes tied up while the Ramin Djawadi's arrangement of Paint It Black starts playing again, which is the song that was playing when Hector and his gang rob the saloon in I can't remember what episode it was, episode 4 I think of season 1.
A couple of times it happened.
Yeah, it happened a couple of times, but that is very cool, and the mirroring is very cool, and the way they've got apparently I was reading an episode synopsis after I finished it just to see if I'd missed anything, apparently it said during this episode that literally the sets for Shogun World and Westworld were designed right next to or built right next to each other, so you could walk from one into the other to make sure they were actually mirrored, which is very cool.
Cool. That is cool. That's really cool.
So that was a fun fact. And once you know that and you go back and look, it's like, oh yeah, they are actually, this is a mirror of what was going on in season 1, and it's a great introduction. Great introduction for these guys, if a little stereotypical, even though that's kind of the point.
Yeah, exactly. It's you could probably say the same about the westerns as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, question for you. What the hell was that weapon that they were using? I've never seen anything like that before. It's basically like a garden hoe, but they're just stabbing people with it.
Oh yeah, I never know what that's called, and I think that's more of a Chinese weapon, to be honest, than because you see it sometimes in like wuxia, like Chinese martial arts movies. I don't know is the honest answer. I don't think it seems very practical when you've just got a sword there, but I mean, the amount of like wuxia films I've seen where people have like a steel umbrella on a chain and that's their weapon, and if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, your brain just dissolves into dust because it doesn't make any sense why you would use that. But gosh darn it, it's cool, and that's all that matters.
It is cool. I kind of want to finish the conversation about Shogun World today. So we'll take a little break from it in a minute to talk about the other storyline that's going on before we come back to it.
Okay.
And that is Dolores basically fulfilling her origin story as the bad guy in this show, it seems to me.
Yeah, I think... So, I mean... The problem that I have with this storyline, and I've gone hot and cold on it. I think the last week's episode where Dolores reunited with Peter Abernathy, and we got a moment where we saw kind of under the hard exterior of Dolores and saw that there was some inner turmoil and that she wasn't 100% certain that what she was doing was correct. That was great because that is what this character has been missing, and I think the showrunners are hoping that the dramatic irony of us, the viewer, knowing that Teddy will be dead by the end of this season and not knowing how, I think that they think that that's enough to propel this storyline forward. But I don't think Teddy is an interesting enough character to carry that himself. I do like Teddy, he's good, but I wouldn't want to put a whole show on his back in the same way that Dolores or Bernard have I didn't do that deliberately. We'll not mention it. Dolores or Bernard had the show placed on their backs in the first season, and I realised as I watched this that Dolores's meditations on the or the show's meditations on the sort of repeated effects of trauma on hosts and people, and all of that interesting analysis of what goes on beneath the surface of an individual has just completely gone missing in this season, and mainly because Dolores is being positioned as a very two-dimensional character now. Like, she's just the bad guy. Well, she's not even really a bad guy. She's just kind of an antagonist to a bunch of other characters who we don't really know that well. And it is a real shame. It is a real shame because they've lost a great character in doing that, and I don't think they've got another one to step up to take her place.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. I think that the story they've convinced themselves that they told in the first season was an origin of a woman who's going to lead the charge and destroy humanity or whatever she's going to do.
Yeah.
That's not what I got in the first season. I did not get that. I got a woman who was coming, making the journey to consciousness, and there was a real beauty in what had been created within her mind, and there was a real beauty to her consciousnness. And I didn't expect her not to be gritty. Like, I didn't expect her not to be gritty. I knew she was gonna, she killed Anthony Hopkins' character Ford. So I was expecting real grit from her, but I wasn't expecting her to literally like, she's turned into the monologuing bad guy. That's what she is now.
Yeah, I think they want her to be this kind of like Boudica-esque like warrior queen who leads the revolution. Yeah. And it's not to say you couldn't get Dolores to that point in an interesting way, but the jump from the end of season 1 to to season 2 is way too big. Like there need to be better motivations for what she's doing. She needs to be placed in a situation where she has no choice but to kill again. That's how you so she killed Ford, but he kind of had it coming. Then you put her in a position where she has to kill again because she's in peril or something like that, and you gradually build up this resentment towards humans until she arrives at the character that she is now. But they haven't done any of the groundwork, which is why it feels so flimsy, I think. And yeah, it is a shame. It's one of the reasons I think this episode is so good is because it doesn't really focus on that. It has a bunch of new, compelling stuff to throw your way in the hopes that you don't notice the Dolores storyline is just kind of meandering.
Yep. I agree with you. And like, what's going to happen to Teddy is I assume that they're going to make him. I don't know what they're doing. Like they're changing him some way, making him just into a stone cold killer
that they've got. Like, did I miss that? They've just got an engineer man with an iPad who changes Teddy's behavior.
Yeah. They've all got their own. They've all got their own iPad man now. But this guy came from like an underground place where they went into and started fucking shit up and threatened a few guys.
Was it the same place where they were like drowning the dude's head in the molten plastic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this guy was still with them. I think I'd assumed that he, I don't know, disappeared into the ether somewhere. But yeah, I mean, my assumption is the same as you. They're going to alter his behavior to, I guess, make him more aggressive, make him more willing to take orders.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's interesting. It is interesting, but it's nowhere near as compelling as this storyline could be.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Speaking about changing someone, Maeve has been changed a lot. And let me just say,
Maeve in this episode. What is going on with Maeve?
What is going on with Maeve? So I want to say something about Maeve before we sort of get into it.
Okay.
Is how can the show continue now? Where how is she not too powerful? Now, they tried to do a little thing. Where she was, bound so she couldn't speak. Their ears have been cut off or whatever because she can't command them.
That's really dramatic as well. Like, you could just put like wax in their ears or something. Like, you don't need to literally cut their ears off, dude.
Yeah, that is very, very dramatic. So how on earth is this show going to... There's like another season coming on the way, so that's going to be 4th season now. How on earth do you get away with having this character this powerful?
Yeah.
And how is the show not going to end in 2 episodes?
I mean,
how is she not just going to tell everyone to kill themselves?
There's two ways. Either they kill her, or they do the old bash her on the head and she forgets who she is trick. Because I just don't see... Like, she's literally like Charles Xavier with Cerebro in the X-Men. Like, she's multilingual and she can command people through telepathy now, which is just like, okay, well, so she's got mutant superpowers, I guess, now. And I to be fair, they have established the idea in this season about the I can't remember what Bernard called it, like some kind of network that links them all, links their consciousnesses all together. Mm-hmm. So my assumption is that she is somehow finding a way to tap into that through Wi-Fi connections or something, and it's just being presented as like a superpower. But it is pretty nuts what she can do now, and I mean, but at the end of this episode, she has presumably an army of samurai, and has just killed or been responsible for the deaths of like hundreds of men. So I don't know where Maeve's going, but I feel like this, my fear, I've just thought about it now and it has sent a shiver down my spine, is the idea that at the end of this season, Dolores and Maeve are going to lead armies with different ideas about how they want to fix Westworld and Shogun World, and end up fighting each other, and there's just going to be a massacre of hosts as they slaughter one another, and it's going to be like the battle at the end of The Hobbit, because it's just going to be awful. That's my fear.
Look to the east. Now, I think...
No, that's a good one. That's in Lord of the Rings. It's going to be like the one where the fucking dwarves set up a shield wall and then the elves jump over it for some reason.
If it was Look to the East, which character would be standing there in the sunlight?
Hector.
Ford.
No, actually, no.
Ford
would be great. Yeah, that'd be so good. Look for my coming on the 3rd day.
Okay, but I have to get into this though because it's vaguely relevant to what very relevant to what we're talking about right now. It's the question of the week.
Oh.
Hey Konrad, look who it is. It's only the bloody question of the week.
All right, we kind of had the conversation before I asked the question, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Callie Denza, who asked this question multiple times. Finally, we're at the point where we can talk about it now.
Okay.
And Callie Denza themselves even said, "Is it too early for this question again?" Yes, it was. Now, like most of us, the second season of Westworld is a mess, a big splodgy mess within Callie Denza's mind. But we've finally got there. And the question is, what does Konrad think of Maeve's Wi-Fi control abilities? You've even called the Wi-Fi, so well done.
Oh, nice, yeah.
This is the extra part of the conversation, potentially. What do they seem too unrealistic and overpowered? I think we agree they're overpowered.
They're definitely they've made themselves a worryingly powerful character here that I'm not sure how they're ever going to place Maeve in peril again. So I definitely think they're potentially overpowered. I think the way she arrived at them was pretty stupid. I think Trauma unlocking the ability to connect to a Wi-Fi network and talk to a bunch of other computers is not something I have ever experienced in my years of working in IT. So you're
telling me when you're going to try and hack into the mainframe of some company, all you need to do is give yourself a bit of trauma and you'll go.
I make the computer believe it had a son and then give it a memory of that son dying, and then it's able to access the FBI mainframes or whatever the fuck it's doing. It was kind of dumb, and it's just like a bit of a throwaway. What I refer to moments like that as, and this is very similar to the last Star Wars movie that they released, is the people making the show have got all this cool samurai shit going on over here, and they're jangling their keys over here, and they're saying, "Look at this, look at this, look at this," and while that's going on, they're just like farting out this superpower and hoping desperately you don't look in this direction, because if you look at this it'll just vanish because it doesn't make any fucking sense. But that's what they're hoping, that's what they've tried, and it worked pretty well because the samurai stuff was great. But yeah, if you put it under any kind of scrutiny it just falls apart, I think.
That is a great way to put it. I'm going to be honest with you. That is a really, really good way to put it. We did get a little bit of a little hint at the Wi-Fi abilities beforehand, though, because she kind of predicted that the ninja was going to pop up and put his head through the roof as well.
Yes,
like she looked up before, and we all know ninjas don't make a sound, so she had to do that with Wi-Fi.
Well, these ones did. They started shouting about how she was a witch, which was not very ninja-like at all, I thought. But yes, she seems to have some kind of sort of cognitive ability that lets her see things coming moments before they actually do. Perhaps it's just very heightened senses that she interprets as being precognition, but I mean, we got ninjas. It was pretty cool, I guess. Yeah. So I'm giving them a pass. I'm giving them a pass for that one. But the problem that this episode is going to face, and Shogun World in general is going to face, is that they've played the ninja card very early indeed. Like, they literally introduced the world and it was like, ninjas, here you go. And you can't play it again. You cannot use that twice. So I don't know what they're going to use next time.
Or whether they'll... Do you think that the Ninja World, or sorry, even I'm calling it Ninja World, that's how early they introduced them. Do you think the Shogun World is going to be a mainstay in Westworld from now on?
The amount of shit they put into this, I think this might be us done with Shogun World now. I think the next time we're going to see... I don't think... The way they've structured this series so far, or season so far, is that you get one episode that's mainly about Dolores, and then one episode that's mainly about Maeve. And there have been a couple of little weird ones, like the last one. But generally speaking, that's how they've structured it. I think Maeve's probably not going to be in the next episode very much at all, and then the episode after that there's going to be some kind of shit going down in Westworld and she's going to turn up with a bunch of samurai. that's my and never again will it be mentioned that there was a Shogun World, and instead we'll just have Hiroyuki Sanada in a kimono for in the Western world, because that's fun.
I mean I want it to happen. I'm not going to tell you whether it did happen.
When Akane does her her dance, her geisha dance for the shogun in his camp. Long-time listeners of the show will know that I tend to listen out for Ramin Djawadi's arrangements of popular music because they're normally really good, and I was blown away in this one because motherfucking Cream by the Wu-Tang Clan played while Akane was doing her dance. I was so happy. I was punching the air while it was going on. And I immediately made the assumption that Anthony does not really know the Wu-Tang Clan that well. Is that a fair assumption, Anthony?
I've seen Ali G.
You've seen what?
Ali G.
Oh, Ali G. Oh my god. Does he mention the Wu-Tang Clan?
Doesn't he wear a Wu-Tang Clan yellow thing? Yeah.
He actually might wear it's been a long time since I've seen Ali G.
I think at some point he wore a Wu-Tang Clan like yellow jacket and trouser combo.
Yeah, maybe he does. Maybe he's one of the killer bees. Okay, well that's more than I thought you would know, to be honest. But you're in luck, Anthony, because I have prepared a list of hilarious jokes and plays on words relating to Westworld and the Wu-Tang Clan. So I'm just going to go through them very quickly now in very business-like manner, and we can decide which ones of these we like. First one, everyone will know that Cream, of course, stands for cash rules everything around me, but instead we're going to go for cortical fluid rules everything around me.
I love the introduction of the F there.
Yep. It's in brackets. It's in brackets, so it doesn't count.
It's in brackets.
A little bit more of a deep cut this time, and indeed it was a deep cut for this character in that the Shogun did not, in fact, protect his neck in this episode. You'll have to listen to Enter the 36 Chambers to understand that one.
I don't understand that one.
Method Maeve instead of Method Man. That's quite a good one, I thought. And finally, Old Dirty Bernard instead of Old Dirty Bastard. Hello,
Bernard.
Yeah. And that has been our Wu-Tang Clan Westworld joke section. Thank you for listening.
Well, I enjoyed it, Konrad. I thought it was a fantastic. The cortical fluid one is the only one I understood. But I'll look out for the rest.
Do you know Method Man? You surely know Method Man, right?
I know the Method Man. I know the two words, Method Man.
He was a member. He is a member of the Wu-Tang Clan, so hence Method Maeve.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Well, there you go. I've educated.
I don't know anything about the Wu-Tang Clan. I thought they were a clothing brand.
I mean, you can make the argument that for a time there they became more about the clothing they produced than their music. To be honest, I definitely had a couple of Wu-Tang hoodies back in the day.
Right. Okay. Well, brilliant. Talking about Akane, I want the character went through sort of the Maeve. Obviously, she's like a Maeve version of Maeve in the Shogun world.
Yes,
she went through the Maeve journey a little bit here, very quickly, to the point where as soon as her world started going off the rails, she was killing people left, right, and center. She stabbed Shogun in the eye. She cut the main. I can't remember his name, but the main guy's.
Oh, that guy was the Shogun. Yeah, she cut his that was unreal. Like the way she stabbed him in the neck, and I was like, okay, that's really like stabbed in his jugular. He's gonna bleed out, and then it just kept on going. And she was like sawing his head off, and then his head like flops to the side, still attached, and then he stands up and walks for a bit. It's just like whoever did that, they had some fun with that one. I commend whoever made those decisions.
Well, to be honest with you, it really shits on old Bernie, doesn't it? Because to be honest with you, Bernard. When he's leaking cortical fluid, he can hardly stand up.
Yeah.
This guy is leaking cortical fluid, gets his head cut off, and then still stands up.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem.
Yeah, Bernie's a little tiny little pissant compared to this guy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Tessa, I need my nut fluid in my head. Shut up, Bernard. Get back to work.
That would really reminded me of some mothers do have them. Is that what you were going for?
It wasn't, but that did sound a lot like Frank Spencer, to be honest. Oh, Mrs. or whatever it was. I haven't seen
Betty.
That's it. Yeah. I haven't seen some others who have them in a long time. Someone Photoshop Bernard as Frank Spencer. That's my demand.
Right. Okay. Well, there we go. I'm pretty sure, guys, that's going to bring us to a close for this episode. And to be honest with you, I think we'll probably get more Westworld in the next episode again.
I think so.
There is a particular episode, I'm pretty sure it's in this season, which I'm really looking forward to talking to you about, Konrad, because let's just say they go somewhere where I never would have thought would have existed in a holiday location. Let's just say that.
It's going to be like the fucking Khmer Rouge world or something like that. Just like, let's go to Cambodia in the middle of a genocide.
No, it's not.
Vietnam world.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to going to a particular world with you, Konrad. So we'll have fun when we get there. Guys, if you would want to subscribe to the podcast, make sure you subscribe on audio apps, the After Dark Podcast, or on YouTube. We are The Culture Cave. Also, like the video. That would do us a great thing. And if you want to ask a question or give us any advice or any things you notice in the thing, or correct us on anything, put a little comment down below. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.